Donald Trump is panicking as his July 4th fireworks event is already becoming a complete and utter failure. It seems it will be even more catastrophic than this so-called Great American State Fair that nobody showed up to, which is a national humiliation ritual. We've been covering that each and every day. What we're learning about Donald Trump's July 4th fireworks event is that it won't even begin until 11 p.m. at night. What fireworks event begins at 11 p.m. at night? This isn't like New Year's or something. So children likely won't be able to attend. There's going to be a heat wave during the day. And so you have the mayor of Washington, D.C., and you have other organizations warning people about the chance of passing out. And there's massive health consequences that can take place. One of the reasons that the fireworks won't start until 11 p.m. Donald Trump plans on giving a 90-minute to 2-hour speech during the evening because he wants to turn it into a Trump MAGA fest. And so that's why the fireworks won't start until 11 p.m. Also, there's a high potential for thunderstorms to take place that night. Also, these fireworks are going to lead to the D.C. Reagan National Airport being shut down for most of the day on the July 4th, also being shut down for some of July 5th, and also on July 3rd, there will be a massive portion of the day that the airport will be shut down because of what Donald Trump is planning. Donald Trump has claimed that this will be the biggest fireworks show in history, but it seems like it will be one of the biggest duds and biggest failures in history. And the mayor had to go on TV to warn people about the dangers to their health that could be caused by this disastrous fireworks show. I'll show you that in a moment. Donald Trump posted that the 4th of July air show over Washington, D.C., our great capital, will be the biggest by far in the history of the United States of America. Hundreds of planes of different types, sizes, speeds will be on display. It goes from 1:15 p.m. in the afternoon until 11:30 in the evening. What the hell does that even mean? You're going to have constant planes flying over Washington, D.C. for a 10-hour period? That sounds utterly dangerous and deranged. But also we know that he's speaking for about 2 hours, he says. He goes, I will be speaking at approximately 9 p.m. That's why from 9 to 11 is when his speech will be. And then they'll launch the fireworks. Then he says, I will be speaking at 9 p.m.
Do you think Trumpism lasts beyond this term?
Don't think so. I think it'd be very hard to do it. Remember this, Donald Trump is a celebrity. That's what he is. I mean, he's got he has a star on Hollywood Boulevard. I don't have a star on Hollywood Boulevard. I'm not lobbying for one. I'm just saying,
It seems like an oversight, by the way.
What's going on? He's a celebrity, and he's the President of the United States.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video. We put a lot of time into research, fact-checking, and making sure every story we bring you is informative and meaningful. As an independent channel, your support truly keeps this work going. So if you find value in our reporting, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and help us reach more people with stories that matter. Your support means a lot, and it allows us to keep giving our best every single day. Tomorrow, Donald Trump is going to stand on the National Mall in what's forecast to be the hottest July 4th in Washington's recorded history. We're talking 107, maybe higher, with the heat index, and give what he has already promised will be a really long speech, in his own words, just to show that I can do anything. That's not me editorializing. That's a direct quote from a rally this week. And behind the scenes, according to CNN, his own team is in a genuine panic about turnout after the crowd at his kickoff Great American State Fair event on the mall was embarrassingly thin enough that per CNN's sourcing, it infuriated him privately, and thin enough that for tomorrow's event, they're now pre-ticketing the section right in front of the stage just to guarantee it looks full on camera. I'm opening with that because if you've been tracking the George Clooney feud as closely as I have, and I track this stuff obsessively, this is the whole job. You know that Clooney has spent the better part of a year making almost exactly this argument about Donald Trump. That underneath the America First branding is a man who cannot separate a national celebration from his own personal need to be applauded. That the spectacle is the product, Tomorrow's mall event, with its ticketed front rows and it's your favorite president will be speaking marketing, is basically a live demonstration of the thing Clooney's been diagnosing in real time. So today, full deep dive. The Clooney file, the friendship that curdled the French citizenship saga, the war crimes fight with the White House comms shop, and where it all stands heading into this holiday weekend.
Preceding the fireworks, which again, like the air show, will be approximately 10 times larger than any fireworks in history of our country. So if you like airplanes and fireworks and President Trump, be there. As our editor-in-chief Ron Velipkowski writes, Trump just submitted an $87.6 billion supplemental to cover $67 billion at least in costs in this catastrophic and unlawful war in Iran, plus his latest bailout for farmers to add to his proposed $1.5 trillion military budget. And we're only $39 trillion in debt. So what the hell is he putting on our tab right now? Also, we learned that to change the Defense Department to Department of War, that's going to cost at least $150 million. Donald Trump is apparently going to be demanding $500 million in taxpayer dollars for his so-called golden ballroom. This is turning out to be a complete and utter disaster. Let me share with you what the mayor of Washington, D.C., Mayor Bowser, said about the July 4th fireworks, how they won't start until 11 p.m., and how this poses a very serious health risk. And she warns at this point, you can't have your children out there. You can't really have people who are older there. People have to be very careful, especially if you're standing out in the Washington, D.C. heat all day. Folks, this is a recipe for an utter disaster. Here's what Mayor Bowser had to say. I mean, have you ever heard of a mayor having to go on and warn about the health risks because the president of the United States is imperiling people's lives with a disastrous fireworks show? Here's what she said. Let's play this clip.
The fireworks organizers have informed us that they are going to be later than normal and they will last longer. Normally, the fireworks begin at nightfall, around 9 o'clock. This year, we expect that they won't begin until 11 p.m. And that they may last up to 45 minutes. Oh, you don't quote me, but they're going to be longer than in previous years, we are told. And so throughout the weekend, we strongly encourage everyone to use public transportation, use Metro wherever possible, to make sure that you can have a quick and seamless ride. We continue to have, so let me say that the late start, and I want to emphasize the late start for our teams. We've been focused on it because it does mean that when people have generally watched the fireworks, gotten on Metro, and they're home by 11 o'clock, they're going to be starting at 11 o'clock. And so the thing to remember, especially with this heat, is that's a long, long day. So people have to really watch the heat, watch what they're drinking, and get home as soon as the fireworks are over. I'm expecting, and again, I would refer to the 250 folks that families with small children are going to decide that the children should watch on TV or watch at a neighborhood event. Or if they're really brave, I'm not one of them that would track like an 8-year-old. Well, maybe I am. I won't say. Maybe I am that brave. I am actually. But just everybody just make the best plan for your family.
Now, here's what we're learning about how Trump's so-called hyped July 4th in D.C. faces a 100-degree extreme heat wave. You look at what the National Weather Service is predicting on Independence Day. Chance of showers and thunderstorms, mostly sunny and hot with a high near 101. Chance of precipitation is about 50% or higher. Some models collected by Capital Weather see the temperature could exceed 106 degrees Fahrenheit. The punishing heat wave leading up to and into the holiday weekend is due to a strong heat dome or zone of high pressure. Hat tip Anna Spiegel for the scoop about the reason that the fireworks won't start until 11 p.m. is Donald Trump's very lengthy speech taking place. Dave Troy explains, I'm sure the overtired, overheated kids will really enjoy listening to a crazed old man rant about his random obsessions. What an utter embarrassment indeed. I previously discussed how the DC airports are going to be closed. Now, as I mentioned, this seems like it will be a bigger catastrophe than even this so-called Great American State Fair, which is the opposite of great. Talk about what went down yesterday. Dave Leventhal was there at the 11 a.m. Tuesday time slot. This is what happened, what was going on. You had this band of young musicians. It was quite sad because the band actually seemed relatively talented as well.
I was thinking about Edward R. Murrow as we find ourselves nostalgic for when America was great and when the news wasn't fake.
Mr. Edward R. Murrow has made repeated attacks upon me and those fighting communists.
The actions of the junior senator from Wisconsin have caused alarm and dismay amongst our allies abroad and given considerable comfort to our enemies.
The actions of this president have caused...
And I'll give you my read on where this goes next, because once you've tracked this man's patterns long enough, he stops being unpredictable. Let's get into it. Start with the part almost nobody remembers, because it changes the whole story. George Clooney and Donald Trump used to be friendly. Clooney has said it himself on the record in a Variety cover story. I knew him very well. He used to call me a lot, and he tried to help me get into a hospital once to see a back surgeon. I'd see him out at clubs and at restaurants. He's a big goofball. And then the line that's really the thesis of this entire feud, well, he was. That all changed. That all changed. Not, I always despised him, not partisan reflex, a former friend watching the man he knew become something else and saying so with real specificity. That's a different kind of testimony than you get from a lifelong political opponent. And it's exactly why Trump can't shrug it off the way he shrugs off, say, a random pundit. And Clooney isn't a lightweight in Democratic politics either. This matters for the whole analysis. He's one of the party's most significant fundraisers, going back to Obama-era events that raised tens of millions of dollars in single nights. This is a guy with a genuine decades-long relationship to the machinery of Democratic Party finance, not a celebrity who wandered in for one election cycle. So when, in July 2024, he wrote that New York Times op-ed calling on Joe Biden to drop out of the race, a devastating loyalty-costing piece from a friend, not an enemy, and Biden was out of the race within weeks, that wasn't a celebrity opinion piece. That was a demonstration of actual political weight. Trump watched a movie star's essay help end a sitting president's campaign. File that away because it explains a lot of what came next. Trump does not forget who has that kind of power, and he does not forgive it either. And it's worth pausing on just how costly that op-ed was for Clooney personally, because it wasn't a free shot. He just hosted a massive fundraiser for Biden weeks earlier, one of the biggest of the entire campaign, alongside Julia Roberts and a roster of major names. He had every incentive to stay quiet, protect the relationship, keep the donor pipeline warm. Instead, he watched Biden up close at that very event and concluded, in his own words, that the Biden he was watching was not the Biden of years past, and he said so publicly, at real personal cost to a friendship of decades. Whatever you think of the political wisdom of that move, it is not the move of a man chasing applause. Applause was the thing he was risking. So Trump attacked. Predictably, fake movie actor told him to get out of politics. And Clooney's response is the single cleanest data point in this whole file for how to actually beat this man in a public exchange. On Kimmel's show, Live, Clooney was asked about being told to get out of politics, and he just smiled. I will if he does. I will if he does. No anger, no rant. A trade Trump would never take, offered so casually it functions as a joke and an indictment at the same time. That's the Clooney method in one line. You do not out-scream Donald Trump, you out-calm him. And it's been the pattern of this entire feud ever since.
But nobody was there because nobody wants to be associated with Trump in this disgusting event. Play this clip.
Baby, you'll make it
hat tip to Anarchy Princess, who keeps bringing some great reporting. She says, no cotton candy at the fair, but you can get a $200 American jersey, which looks cheaply made in my opinion, or a $47 MAGA hat. Hats sold by the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, selling MAGA hats and $200 America 26 jerseys and apparently American flags on crosses. There's a booth where you can get baptized under an Israeli and American flag. As Joe Flood says, the rapture has begun at the Great American State Fair, but seriously, the event isn't even ADA compliant, so this person probably got out of their chair to check out one of the state exhibits. Amanda Moore has been doing some great coverage. She says, I can't stay away from my favorite place, the Great American State Fair. But you know, state regime media is going to be out there trying to entice people to what may be a death trap on July 4th. And even as nobody's showing up, you have Fox and all of these state regime media outlets pretending that this is like a great event. Watch as there are literally maybe a dozen people here. And you're going to have in the next few days DC weather hit triple digits. Watch as state regime media tries to pretend that this is like a happening event. Play this clip.
May in Washington, D.C. Michael, what are you tracking out there?
My goodness gracious, Anna, so good to see you. We are tracking lots and lots and lots of heat, although right now is almost the calm before the heat storm, if you will. We're actually right around 90 degrees right now, but this is going to feel like air conditioning compared to what's in store in the next couple of days. Where we're at right now is actually called the National Mall. It's been renamed, of course, the Great American State Fair. We have all 50 nifty United States and 6 territories being represented here. It's an awesome, awesome display of what makes America so amazing and so beautiful, right? But the problem is that there's hundreds, if not thousands of folks here, and that heat is going to become a very big issue. So there's a lot of folks that are going to be out and about here, and we want to at least make sure that we mention that by the time we get to...
Frank Sinatra said the best revenge is massive success. Isn't your best revenge, rather than talking constantly about the last election?
I don't talk constantly, but you brought it up.
You did.
You brought it up.
Come on, either way.
Excuse me. You brought it up. I don't talk about it very much.
We have a good show for tonight. You know, I've not seen this many people cover their eyes before.
Now let's get into the part of this file that the casual coverage undersells, because I think it's actually the sharpest thing Clooney has said in the entire feud, and it happened in a Variety cover story, not a soundbite. He went after the institutions. He named CBS and ABC specifically, both networks that settled lawsuits Trump filed against them rather than fight. His quote, "If CBS and ABC had challenged those lawsuits and said, go fuck yourself, we wouldn't be where we are in the country. That's simply the truth." And he didn't stop at the corporate level. He took a direct shot at CBS News' new editor-in-chief, Barry Weiss, over the direction he sees the network taking under her. Weiss actually responded publicly in the New York Post, inviting Clooney to visit the CBS Broadcast Center, opening her statement with, "Bonjour, Mr. Clooney," a jab at his new French citizenship that we'll get to in a second. Here's why this critique matters more than the personal insults. Clooney isn't just saying Trump is bad. He's naming the mechanism by which a media environment gets captured. Not tanks in the street, settlements, quiet capitulation by risk-averse corporate boards, one legal payout at a time, until the outlets that are supposed to hold power accountable have priced in the cost of doing so and decided it's cheaper to fold. That's a specific structural argument, and it comes from a guy whose own father, Nick Clooney, was a career television news anchor. Clooney grew up inside that world and watched what it used to be. When he says the media capitulating is simply the truth, he's speaking as someone with real inside knowledge of what journalistic backbone used to look like. And to his credit, he's put his own career where his mouth is. He told NPR directly that he'll keep speaking out even if it costs him audience. "I don't give up my right to freedom of speech because I have a Screen Actors Guild card." That's a specific, testable commitment, and unlike a lot of celebrity activism, it's one he's actually followed through on, repeatedly, through everything that came next. And there's a piece of Clooney's own artistic output that makes this whole critique feel less like improvisation and more like a thesis he's been building for years. Good night and good luck. Clooney's film, and more recently his Broadway adaptation of it, tells the story of the legendary CBS newsman Edward R. Murrow standing up to Senator Joseph McCarthy during the Red Scare, at a moment when institutions were tempted to keep their heads down and let a demagogue run roughshod over the country. Clooney has been explicit that he didn't stage that story on Broadway by accident, and that the parallel to right now is the entire point of doing it. So when he criticizes CBS and ABC for settling instead of fighting, he's not a guy freelancing an opinion about the news business. He's a guy who has spent real career capital putting the opposite model, the Murrow model, on a stage in front of paying audiences, night after night, as his own answer to the question of what courage in media is actually supposed to look like. Which brings us to the citizenship saga, and I want to walk through this slowly, because the press coverage flattened it into a punchline, and the actual sequence of events is way more interesting. This is not Clooney moved to Europe to escape Trump, which is the lazy version. Clooney and Amal have lived primarily in France since 2021, years before any of this. What actually happened, confirmed by the French government in a bulletin at the end of 2025, France formally granted citizenship to George Clooney, Amal Clooney, and their 7-year-old twins, citing their contributions to France's international influence.
Thursday and especially Friday, our feels like temperature is literally going to feel like a sauna. 112 degrees is our heat indice. So you got to make sure that you are dressing for it, that you are drinking plenty of water.
And then you have state regime media saying how it's unbelievable to see people out here. Take a look at Aaron Rupar's supercut right here. Play this clip.
Well, I'm John Roberts. Good to be back with you again here in Washington.
Back with you. It's even warmer today than yesterday.
But it's a dry heat. That's the great thing about Washington.
It's a dry heat. All right, I'll take that. I'm Sandra Smith, and this is America Reports. Back live with you again from the Great American Top of the New Hour. Right now, America Reports is live from the Great American State Fair as the country continues celebrating its 250th birthday.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you here. It is sunny, it is hot, but it is a celebration indeed.
It is wonderful. I mean, it's just unbelievable to see people out here enjoying the city.
Did you stop by the Louisiana?
No, that's where I'm headed next.
Okay, next you and the First Lady.
Of days. Where we're at right now is actually called the National Mall. It's been renamed, of course, the Great American State Fair. We have all 50 nifty United States and 6 territories being represented here. It's an awesome, awesome display of what makes America so amazing and so beautiful, right? But the problem is that there's hundreds, if not thousands of folks here, and that heat is going to become a very big issue.
Aaron Rupar also explains there are more people in my garage watching. Here, play this clip right here.
Top of the new hour. Right now, America Reports is live from the Great American State Fair as the country continues celebrating its 250th birthday. And just short distance from here.
And Governor Jeff Landry said the following when he was on, and you can see that there's just nobody there as well. He's the guy who wants to take over Greenland. He's the envoy to Greenland. He's also the governor of Louisiana. Play this clip.
Well, thank you for having me.
Good to have you here. It is sunny, it is hot, but it is a celebration indeed.
It is wonderful. I mean, it's just unbelievable to see people out here enjoying the city.
Did you stop by the Louisiana?
No, that's where I'm headed next.
Okay, next you and the First Lady will head there. Okay, so.
And by the way, if you do check out the fireworks, you can see all of the various Trump destruction of DC in action. New York Times analysis found that despite Trump's promises that private donors would cover all of his self-aggrandizing projects, as Amy Skiskin says in DC, in reality, these projects are costing the taxpayers billions. Trump isn't paying for it. His right-wing oligarch friends aren't paying for it. Taxpayers are. So the White House ballroom, $500 million, taxpayers are paying for it, and Trump funneled a no-bid contract to his buddies. When it comes to all these other projects, Kennedy Center, $250 million from taxpayers. $400 million for the bunker and security. $500 million for the actual ballroom itself. Did
you go for a coup? I don't remember. I'll tell you, we caught him cold. It's about time that something happens, okay? It's about time that something happens. It's enough. We got plenty of information on these crooks. Bunch of crooks. Thing like that's never happened in the history of our country, and it's about time that something happens.
the French Foreign Ministry's own language. They maintain strong personal, professional, and family ties with our country. Like many French citizens, we are delighted to welcome Georges and Amal Clooney into the national community. This is an honor conferred by a sovereign government unrelated to any American election cycle on its face. And Trump could not let it pass without turning it into a grievance. New Year's Eve, Truth Social, and I want to read you the actual construction of this post because the syntax alone tells you something about the man's state of mind at 11:58 p.m. on the last night of the year. Good news! George and Amal Clooney, two of the worst political prognosticators of all time, have officially become citizens of France. Then, a rambling aside, relitigating the 2024 Biden op-ed misspelling Kamala Harris's name as Jamala, K, misspelling Tim Walz as Tim Waltz, and referring to California Governor Gavin Newsom as Gavin Newscom. Then back to Clooney. He got more publicity for politics than he did for his very few and totally mediocre movies. He wasn't a movie star at all, he was just an average guy who complained constantly about common sense in politics. Read that structure again as a nerd, not just a headline skimmer. That is not a tight, disciplined political attack. That is a man dictating a stream of consciousness at midnight, unable to stay on one target for more than 2 sentences, misspelling 3 separate names of major political figures in the same breath. This is the same behavioral signature we've documented in every single one of these feuds. De Niro, Springsteen, Rosie O'Donnell, provoked and unable to stop typing. And Clooney's response was, once again, the cool counter. He didn't get defensive about the acting jab. He agreed to disagree on the movies and pivoted straight to the ballot box. I totally agree with the current president. We have to make America great again. Implying, let's see what November does about that. Same trick as I will if he does. Take Trump's own language, redirect it at an actual electoral consequence, and hand it back with a smile. Then, 2 weeks later, the Golden Globes, and this is the moment that turns quiet clapback into genuine live television theater. January 11th, 2026. Clooney walks out to present Best Picture alongside Don Cheadle, and in front of the entire industry and a global broadcast audience, opens not in English but in French. Bonsoir mes amis. Good evening my friends. Then, c'est un honneur d'être ici. It's an honor to be here. That's it. That's the whole joke. 2 sentences of French on a Hollywood stage weeks after the President of the United States mocked him for becoming French. No name check, no direct reference to Trump at all. He didn't even need one. Everybody in that room and everybody watching at home understood exactly what that was. It's the I will if he does instinct taken to its most refined form. Don't attack, don't defend, just be the thing they mocked you for publicly with total ease and let the audience do the rest. That's a masterclass in how you make a bully look small without ever raising your voice. Now to the heaviest chapter, the one that actually escalated this from personal sniping into something with real moral stakes. April 2026, in the middle of the US-Iran war. Clooney was in Cuneo, Italy, speaking to roughly 3,000 secondary school students at an event for the Clooney Foundation for Justice, his and Amal's human rights organization, active in 40 countries since 2016. Remember, Amal is an international human rights lawyer.
Donald Trump just had a disastrous press conference in North Dakota. His teleprompter broke during his speech, so he was wandering all over the place and just was completely out of control. Let me show you what went down. This is where the teleprompters broke and he really couldn't even read what was being scrolled on these broken prompters. Watch for yourself what went down.
At his door, the man threatened to kill him. He said, I'm going to kill Roosevelt. And he declared that I've come over to see what you want to begin with and how do you want to begin the killing, he said. How do you want to begin? I'm right here in front of you. How do you want to begin the killing? That's a little different kind of a guy.
Then as he was struggling to read what was on the broken teleprompters, he said that his 2 beautiful sons that are sitting there should be involved in a threesome together. Here, play this clip.
The call of duty. Now, as I see my 2 beautiful sons sitting there, I think I'm going to give one to myself, one to them, and we'll have a threesome, okay? I'll pick out one of the 2. I'll give them the Congressional Medal of Honor for something, for their genius at hunting, and I'll get one for taking on Russia, or something. And we'll have a 3rd pair. Now, I'm only kidding.
Then he kept on whining and complaining that the teleprompters weren't working. You can watch here for yourself what went down. Let's play it.
And number 4, I have 2 teleprompters that aren't working. And here I stand.
Then again, as the teleprompters continued to break down, he said that he would be giving a speech on July 4th that would last so long in 170-degree heat. And he said he wants to make sure his speech is extra long so that all the people who were there in Washington, D.C. for his July 4th speech have to see that he can handle 170 degrees in D.C. And then the fireworks may take place at around 11 so that the people will have to stay there in the heat all day. And the mayor has given a health warning as a result of all of this. Let's play this clip.
And this week, we look back on 250 years of glorious freedom, and we took so much time and so much effort. And by the way, on July 4th, it's going to be approximately 107 degrees out. And I'm going to go and I'm going to make a really long speech just to show that I can do anything. It's going to be 107.
Then Donald Trump said that he was not sure if he should be visiting and doing this speech in North Dakota, where he was there at the opening of the Teddy Roosevelt Center over there. By the way, the people behind him are dressed as the Rough Riders. And it's a very small attended event as well. And he goes, I told Doug Burgum, should I really even show up here to North Dakota? Because I'm currently prosecuting a war that's going very, very well, he says. He's prosecuting the war right now against Iran. So first off, again, he's calling it a war while there is this ceasefire and this memorandum of understanding. He currently said right now, I'm prosecuting the war. You could hear for yourself what he has to say. And he said, but yeah, I decided I would speak in front of all of you to grace you with my presence. Here, let's play this clip.
Doug said you could come in. I'm prosecuting a war, which we're winning very easily, by the way. But I said, Doug, let's fly in. We'll do 10, 15 minutes. I know I'm going to love it. And then I'll get out. Oh, absolutely, sir. So then time comes. He got me making speeches. I was over there 2 hours. I know more about that museum than the people that built it. But that's okay, because they did a very good job. I can report that they did a really good job.
Then Donald Trump brags about how he spoke with an AI Teddy Roosevelt, and he describes a conversation where he asked Teddy Roosevelt, AI version, about how it was so unfortunate that Democrats gave the Panama Canal away to Panama for $1. This is what he's saying in front of this crowd in North Dakota. Let's play this clip.
Well, I even had a conversation with Theodore Roosevelt. I said, what did you think about the Panama Canal? Do you consider that your greatest achievement? How do you feel about the fact that the Democrats gave the Panama Canal away to Panama for $1?
This isn't Clooney freelancing a legal opinion. This is a household that has genuine dinner table level expertise in exactly this body of law. And in that context, addressing Trump's threats to destroy Iran entirely if it didn't meet US demands, Clooney said, according to the Italian news agency ANSA, some say Donald Trump is fine. But if anyone says he wants to end a civilization, that's a war crime. And then the line that's become the moral center of this whole feud. You can still support the conservative point of view, but there must be a line of decency, and we must not cross it. Not partisan, not Trump bad, a specific, precise legal moral claim that threatening the total destruction of a civilian population, regardless of your politics, crosses a line international law was built to define, delivered to 3,000 teenagers by a man whose actual wife argues genocide and war crimes cases for a living. And that wife argues these cases for a living point isn't abstract. It's the backdrop to another thread in this feud that deserves attention. Months before the French citizenship news, reporting indicated Amal Clooney herself was potentially at risk of US travel restrictions tied to a Trump-backed plan targeting British lawyers connected to the International Criminal Court's war crimes investigation into Israeli officials. Amal is a UK citizen and an ICC-adjacent human rights lawyer by profession, so the same administration Clooney was publicly sparring with was, separately, floating sanctions that could have limited his own wife's ability to enter the country where she has deep personal and professional ties. Whether or not that plan ever fully materialized against her specifically, it tells you the stakes here were never purely rhetorical for this family. And around the same period, Clooney found himself named in Virginia Giuffre's posthumously published memoir about surviving abuse, a mention Clooney was reportedly angered and distressed by, and which he's pushed back on. I raise it only because a complete nerdphile should note it. It's a separate thread from the political feud, and Clooney disputes the characterization. He gave a statement afterward that made the stakes explicit. Families are losing their loved ones. Children have been incinerated. The world's economy is on a knife's edge. This is a time for vigorous debate at the highest levels, not for infantile name-calling. The White House response tells you everything about what happens when there's no actual rebuttal available. Communications Director Stephen Chung on the record to The Independent. The only person committing war crimes is George Clooney for his awful movies and terrible acting ability. That's the entire official response of the United States government to an allegation that the president threatened a war crime. Not, here's why that threat was justified. Not, here's the legal context. A joke about Batman and Robin. When the White House communications shop responds to a war crimes allegation with a film review, that is not confidence.
He built the Panama Canal, preceded really by a man who was he was the tariff king, William McKinley. He was the president, and they took his name off Mount McKinley, and I put it back on because it deserved it. Put it back on. But
then he starts repeating random numbers, and he goes 43443 fourth. You can listen to yourself. Let's play it.
And 4-3, thank you. Fourth, Theodore Roosevelt believed in an America that thinks big. He thought big.
Then he said that we got rid of the algae in the reflecting pool, and he said they, the Democrats, put algae in the water. They put the algae. They planted the algae. As one account notes, oh my God, now he's lying and saying people put algae in the reflecting pool. He's delusional. All right, where are the criminal charges? Where are the indictments of the alleged vandals who have sliced the reflecting pool and are now pouring algae in? Oh wait, he's just lying about everything. Play this clip.
And he was unable to do it. But we did it, and it works beautifully. We got rid of the algae, which they put in. They put in algae. Who the hell put in algae? They had a couple of people with signs, protect the algae. Can you believe this? This world has gone crazy.
And I think the thing also is that if he's willing to lie about this, he's just going to lie about everything. And the lies are so deranged about the algae and the reflecting pool. Just think about when he lies about the war crimes he commits in Iran, where he killed 168 little girls in Manab, the war crimes he's engaged in across the world, the false justifications, the pretext, the lies to get us into these catastrophic and unlawful wars. Then Donald Trump just starts saying, all these people who were running for election against MAGA, they're losers. We're going to teach losers a lesson. Here, play this clip.
The press is just building them up. They're losers, okay? They're nasty people, but they're losers. We'll teach them. We're going to teach them. They're not going to hurt our country. Without courage.
He then says that anybody who's running against the MAGA Republicans are communists, and the communists are bigger threats in our country right now than 9/11. He said that the communists are out there doing worse things right now in the country than 9/11, he says. Watch for yourself. Play this clip.
It was wonderful. As we're seeing now, communism is the greatest threat to our country, including, I believe this. When I said it, I said, boy, that's pretty severe, but I think it's true. It's the biggest threat to our country, including World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, September 11th. I think it's a bigger threat, potentially a bigger threat than that, because it's like a cancer that spreads, and you better stop it fast.
Then he goes on and tells some bizarre story about wiping hands on flags, and do you hear that communist people and this disgusting pig lady, she didn't use the word hand. They said hand, but she used another word to touch the flag. Why would she do that? What? Here, play this clip.
And we don't wipe our hands on a flag. Did you hear the person? One of our communist
we keep thinking we've exorcised all these demons, and we realize we're a long way from getting through with our original sins. It's unfortunate in our storytelling because suddenly some of the things that we were doing are much more literal than they were when we were doing it. But what was really frustrating about Charlottesville to me in watching it was these are moments when we're supposed to come together. You know, these are moments when that tiny faction that doesn't represent even 1% of the country shouldn't be.
That is the absence of an argument dressed up as one. So pattern check, because this is where the nerd analysis actually pays off. Across every single documented exchange in this feud, the op-ed, the fake movie actor jab, the citizenship rant, the war crimes fight, Donald Trump has never once engaged Clooney on the substance of a single claim. Not the media capitulation argument, not the war crimes threshold, not one policy point. Every single response has been personal. His movies, his prognosticating record, his citizenship, his marriage. Attack the man, never the argument. It's the exact same behavioral signature we've tracked with De Niro, the low IQ punchy stuff, with Rosie O'Donnell, the body shaming, the citizenship threats, with Bruce Springsteen, the dried out prune line. When Trump cannot rebut the substance, he reaches for the person. Every time. It's not a bug. At this point, in the file, it's basically a signature. And Clooney's read on why that happens is, I think, the sharpest insight in the whole feud, and it's implicit in everything he said. Trump performs the working class champion, the tough guy, the ultimate insider, while Clooney actually possesses the thing Trump is performing, an authenticity you can't fake your way into. Clooney doesn't need Trump's approval, doesn't need the spotlight validated, doesn't need to win the exchange, because he's not chasing anything from it. And a man whose entire identity runs on winning every exchange cannot tolerate an opponent who isn't even trying to win, who's just standing there unbothered, occasionally speaking French. So now, this week, because if you want live, real-time proof of exactly the dynamic Clooney's been describing, the spectacle over substance instinct, the institutional capitulation, the inability to separate the country's business from his personal need for applause, this week on its own would make his entire case for him. Start with the crowd anxiety, because it's almost too perfect. According to CNN's reporting this week, Trump kicked off the Great American State Fair, part of his self-branded Freedom 250 Inches Semi-Quincentennial program, on the National Mall on June 24th. And the turnout was, in CNN's words, lackluster enough to infuriate him privately. His own people are reportedly doing internal finger-pointing about it. One person close to the White House telling CNN the mistake was an if you build it, they will come mentality that failed. And now, heading into tomorrow's Independence Day address, which he's billed as the culmination of the most unforgettable birthday party any country has ever seen, his team is, per CNN, pre-ticketing the viewing section directly in front of the stage, specifically to guarantee it reads as full on camera, not to serve the public better, to control the shot.
One of our communist people, but they cleaned it up. The press cleaned that statement up. You know that, right? She didn't use the word hand. She used a different word, a disgusting word. They're disgusting pigs. She didn't use the word hand. They said hand. She used another word. You know what word I'm talking about. These people are a disgrace. That's why Theodore Roosevelt boldly fought for what he called the new nationalism. The word nationalism is a very interesting.
But I know while people may be saying things are tough right now, but the best is yet to come. Just you wait. You'll see. Things are amazing. We're in a golden age now, so don't listen to people saying things are bad. But the best is yet to come. Play this.
Something that I can truly say, I believe, the best is yet to come. It's going to be coming, and it's here, but it's coming at speeds that nobody thought possible. Finally, Theodore Roosevelt.
And that's the thing with Trump and all of these MAGA con artists. It's always, hope is right around the corner. Next quarter, it's going to be great. You're about to get rich. The best is yet to come. Just wait. We're almost there. It's going to be great on day one. No, not day one. It's going to be great at the end of 2025. Not the end. The first quarter of 2020. That's when we're building. We're building the banquet. We set the stage. Now's the banquet. 2027. It's going to be great. And then what do they say when they fail and they destroy everything? The communists did it. The Democrats did it. They're the ones. I was so close to making you all rich, and it wasn't my fault. I was going to deliver for you, but they did it. It's Dr. Fauci's fault. It's the Democrats. It's new scum. It's this person. It's an. That's their plan with everything. And then he goes in this bizarre speech and he brags about how CBS broadcast the UFC fight and it had the highest ratings ever on CBS. It wasn't on CBS. It was on Paramount Plus. People had to pay for a subscription to watch a deranged event. Let's play it.
This was one of the highest rated fights in history. It was on CBS National on a Sunday night, not a Saturday night. Saturday nights are called Death Valley for television. I know a lot about ratings. But Sunday night's very good, and it was broadcast on CBS, a network, and it got among the highest ratings any fight has ever gotten.
Then he goes on to say how he really likes the word nationalism. Let's play it.
Roosevelt boldly fought for what he called the new nationalism. The word nationalism is a very interesting word. Putting the needs of the whole nation and all of these people above partisanship, lobbyists, crooked politicians. This is one thing with these guys, they are honest as hell.
Then he goes on to talk about how he said, the Panama Canal
will cut a record number of job-killing, unnecessary regulations, which will blow your mind when you see how many.
And Trump himself at a rally this week framed the entire address around his own personal exertion rather than the country's anniversary. On July 4th, it's going to be approximately 107 degrees out. And I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make a really long speech just to show that I can do anything. Read that sentence as a nerd. The 250th anniversary of the United States of America and the president's own stated reason for showing up is to prove something about himself, personally, physically, in the heat. Clooney's entire critique distilled into one unscripted quote at a podium this week. And it's not an isolated instinct, it's the whole architecture of this Freedom 250 Inches program, which CNN describes as effectively an extension of Trump's presidency rather than a neutral national commemoration. Beyond the fair and tomorrow's fireworks, the same organizers have booked a UFC event at the White House itself, an August Freedom 250 Grand Prix street race, and a youth athletic contest branded the Patriot Games with a $250,000 grand prize. A country's 250th birthday restructured as a season of programming, with the president's own brand stamped across every event. That's not a semi-quincentennial celebration with the president attending. That's a celebration built around him. The exact inversion Clooney has been describing since the Line of Decency speech in Cuneo, the country's business quietly repurposed into content for one man's audience. And the fair itself has become a minor scandal of its own. The centerpiece reflecting pool got a $14 million renovation, got repainted blue, and this week a former Olympic canoeist was actually indicted by a federal grand jury for allegedly damaging it, with prosecutors saying they're investigating roughly half a dozen similar cases. A multi-million-dollar vanity renovation, criminal prosecutions over vandalism to it, all in service of a mall event whose own organizers are privately panicking about attendance. It's the spectacle Clooney's been describing, running at full volume, in the week before this video. And the institutional capitulation argument the CBS and ABC point from that Variety interview got fresh, very concrete evidence this week too. Trump this week took his first flight aboard a brand new Air Force One, a luxury Boeing jet gifted unconditionally by the government of Qatar, valued at roughly $400 million. CNN flagged it plainly. The gift has raised legal, ethical, and national security concerns that, as of this week, remain essentially unresolved, with the plane already in use. A foreign government handing the President of the United States a $400 million aircraft, and the guardrails that would normally scrutinize that kind of gift are, once again, mostly quiet. That's not a media story exactly, but it's the same species of institutional shrug Clooney was diagnosing about CBS and ABC, the pattern of powerful institutions declining to push back, because pushing back has a cost, and folding doesn't. And there's a second thread from this same week that ties directly back to a story we covered on this channel not long ago, Rosie O'Donnell and the Supreme Court's birthright citizenship ruling.
We shouldn't have given it up. He goes, but we'll get it back. He says, we did a good job in Venezuela. Everyone sees how great people are doing in Venezuela. How great they're doing. There was just 2 earthquakes, by the way. And I think people need to be looking into the fracking and the drilling taking place there to see if there are connections there because of the situation how rare it is that you would see kind of a back-to-back earthquake, like that. But in any event, Donald Trump is backing Delcy Rodriguez, the authoritarian regime there. Anyway, listen to it for yourself. Let's play it.
It opened, and from day one, it was very successful. And we gave it away. We gave it away. It was the most expensive thing we ever built. And it was also the most profitable thing we ever built. That's a nice combination. A little bit like Venezuela. We did a good job in Venezuela. And we're actually doing equally as well with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Maybe you've heard of it. But think of it, the Panama Canal, so we gave it away. The first thing they did, you know what they did? They raised the prices for the ships by 4 times, and they didn't lose one ship. And then they raised it again twice, and they didn't lose one ship. All they did is make tremendous amounts of money for years and years. How stupid was that? And now China is trying to take over the Panama Canal, and we're not going to let that happen, okay?
Then Donald Trump, of course, as he starts to conclude the speech, attacks former President Biden because it isn't a Donald Trump speech. If he doesn't obsess over Obama and Biden, you can hear for yourself. Let's play it.
But he said, 1 year ago, during the Biden, Sleepy Joe, during the Biden administration, he said 1 year ago, your country was dead. We gave up on your country. They were looking at China. They were looking at others to protect them. They were looking at other countries.
And then Donald Trump says one of the things he likes about Teddy Roosevelt is that he was wild and he never wanted to listen to his doctor. That's how Trump concludes the speech. Let's play it.
And have a very quiet life. You have to be nice and easy. And he did just the opposite. He had a freaking wild life, right? He was wild. He just didn't want to take that. He didn't want to listen to his doctor. He didn't want to be quiet. He wanted to be great. He actually wanted to be great, and that's what he turned out to be. Young Theodore replied, "Doctor, I'm going to do all the things that you tell me not to do, and I've got to live the sort of life that you've described. I don't care how short it is. I just want to live my life the way I want to live my life."
And so he has been elected, duly elected, fair deal. I'm not complaining about that. That's how it works. That's how this democracy works. But he's also a celebrity, and he is charming. And to the people who like him, they think he's funny. To a great many others, they don't. And so when he is finished, and he will be finished, they're going to have to go looking for someone who can deliver the message that he delivered with the same kind of charisma, and they don't have that.
This week, CNN reported the court wrapped up one of its most consequential terms in recent years, touching immigration, elections, schools, and presidential authority. And in a CNBC interview this week, Trump was asked directly about the ruling from earlier in the term that expanded his power to remove officials at independent agencies. And he didn't downplay it, he celebrated it, on camera. It gave a lot more power to the president, it's been a strong presidency, other presidents are not considered a strong office, even if you're president, you can't do as much. But now, with this additional, it's very special. That is the President of the United States, on CNBC this week, explicitly savoring how much more power one court ruling just handed him personally. And separately, his push for the Save America Act, the voter ID and proof of citizenship bill actually derailed floor business in the House this week. Speaker Mike Johnson sent the chamber home early for the July 4th recess rather than fight it out, because the bill doesn't have the votes in the Senate anyway. Told no by the math, and the fight just gets punted to after the holiday. Same reflex we've documented in every one of these videos. Hit a wall, look for the next lever. Now, I like to make predictions here, because once you track one man's patterns this obsessively, he stops surprising you. Prediction 1. Tomorrow's July 4th speech runs long. He's already told you it will, on the record, a really long speech. And I'd bet real money it includes at least one unprompted riff on crowd size, framed as a triumph regardless of what the actual attendance photos show. Watch for it in the first 15 minutes. Prediction 2. Clooney responds to this week's coverage of the fair's turnout troubles at some point in the next press cycle, and it will not be an angry statement, it'll be another one-liner, delivered with the same amused ease as Bonsoir mes amis and I will if he does. That's his whole method now, and there's no reason for him to abandon a strategy that's worked every single time. Prediction 3. The Air Force One gift from Qatar becomes a bigger story after the holiday than it is right now. Once Congress is back in session and the ethics question CNN flagged this week get an actual hearing, and if it does, expect Clooney's "go feck yourself" line about institutional capitulation to get quoted right alongside it, because it's become the go-to soundbite for exactly this kind of story. Prediction 4, and this one I'd bet on with real confidence. Watch for Clooney to make some version of line of decency language part of his standard vocabulary through the midterms. He's used it once, precisely, in a moment of real stakes, and it's exactly the kind of clean, quotable, non-partisan sounding frame "you can be conservative, just don't cross this line" that translates well beyond his existing audience. If Democrats are smart, that specific phrase ends up on a poster somewhere before November.
Donald Trump has gone silent as Iran strikes another cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz. This is precisely what I predicted was going to happen in the first video I did this morning. Moments ago, we learned the following. A UK MTO, United Kingdom Maritime Warning, stated the following: "Attack, attack. A cargo vessel has been hit on the starboard side by an unknown projectile, causing damage to the bridge. Master has reported no casualties and no environmental impact." Obviously, Iran is exerting its newly claimed control over Hormuz after yesterday's Omani route breakout. Remember, Iran said you cannot go through the Oman route, the Oman passage. You need IRGC approval. And if you try to test us, we will knock out your ship. That is precisely what happened. And I've been saying, yes, the oil prices have been dropping on the Brent crude futures, but I said there is massive instability and it's dropping based on massive market manipulation. And remember, this morning I shared with you the data under the 2 years in the Biden administration following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And I said, look at what the prices were there, way higher. I said, there's far more instability now. And also we see there's far more instability in Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Ukraine responding by attacking the Russian oil depots. Yet the price of Brent crude was $73. It made absolutely no sense to me at all. And Donald Trump, after manipulating the market all day yesterday, and Treasury Secretary Bessent doing the same, look, he has no items today on his calendar where he'll be talking to the press. Who knows, maybe he shows up. He hasn't posted anything on social media. It is a fraud in plain sight that is taking place. Another open source intelligence account explains how this container ship was hit by a projectile sailing in the forbidden corridor of the Omani waters. Again, that's the video I did this morning because I said this is what's going to happen, and it's going to happen quite frequently. And the fact that 2 U.S. aircraft carriers, fighter jets, drones that are going around the Strait of Hormuz 24/7 couldn't protect this container ship in the Omani waters is a reminder. The U.S. has no control over the Strait of Hormuz. And I've been showing you the actual satellite data of the ships that are pinging that they are in the Strait of Hormuz. And you'll see right here that yesterday there were ships trying to get through the Omani route. You see right here that the ships have been turning around and they either use the IRGC route or they don't get out of the Strait of Hormuz. That's what's going on. You know, Foreign Minister Araghchi spoke with his counterpart in Oman, the Foreign Minister of Oman, to discuss regional updates. And here's what they said coming out of this meeting, that they agree that for a temporary 60-day period, that they will allow for there to be free transit through the IRGC controlled area in the Strait of Hormuz, but that's for a limited 60-day period. And thereafter, Iran intends to charge fees.
Listen, it's an honor for me to be here today to give the award to the fearless Emma Gonzalez. She's fearless. We're living in a time where fear is our stock in trade. Fear of Muslims, fear of immigrants, fear of minorities, fear of strong women,
Put a Broadway stage behind the argument that courage in media used to look different than this. And every time Trump swung back, he swung at the man, the acting, the citizenship, the prognosticating, and never once at the argument. That's the tell. That's always the tell. You don't get to claim you won an exchange you never actually engaged. He's the most powerful man on earth, and this week his own aides are privately panicking about whether people will show up to watch him speak in 107-degree heat. Meanwhile, George Clooney is in Europe holding 2 passports, mildly amused, waiting for November, exactly like he said he would. Hey, if you made it all the way here with me, thank you. Genuinely, you're the entire reason this channel exists, and I don't take a second of it for granted. We're independent here. No giant network sitting on top of us. Nobody who can be leaned on into a settlement. Nobody deciding what we're allowed to say. And after a story about networks folding to protect themselves, you understand exactly why that matters. It's just us, tracking this stuff around the clock. CNN, Variety, NPR, Newsweek, the True Social feed at midnight, and connecting it so you don't have to dig through it yourself. So if this deep dive gave you something the headlines didn't, hit that like button right now. 1 second, and it genuinely beats the algorithm. Subscribe and hit the bell, because there's always a next one, usually by tomorrow morning. And share this with one person who still thinks this is just a celebrity spat. That's how independent voices win. And get in the comments, tell me if you think my predictions hold up, and clip it so you can check me later. Let's talk down there. This has been your independent, obsessively researched breakdown of the story they'd rather you scroll past. Stay sharp out there, stay loud, and enjoy the fireworks tomorrow, 107 degrees and all. See you in the next one.